So Tony asked us here this morning to basically tell you a little bit about our program and really our path this past year. She asked us to tell you basically about our experience over the course of the past year. So today you're not going to hear so much about our programs and some of the innovative things that we're doing, but rather about the process and what's happened behind the scenes to get us to the point where we are today. So our journey began in September of 2015 when we were accepted into the cohort for 2015-16. And part of the reason that Andrea and I actually applied to be a part of this program was to motivate us to make sure that STEM was at the forefront of all of our conversations and discussions that we were having with regard to curriculum. Because as many of you know, it's very easy to get overwhelmed with all of the initiatives that are put on our plates each and every day. And this kind of rainy day project would always be there the next year and the year after that and the year after that if we didn't really take the time to focus on the program itself. So with that, we began the program. And one of the first steps was to assemble a team. So the Science Center recommended a team consisting of 5 to 10 staff members representing K through 12, as well as senior administrators. So representing the senior administrative team, we have Andrea and myself. And we think it's really crucial for all of the teams to involve senior leaders because, thankfully to our superintendent and our assistant superintendent, Denise Sedlak, who's actually here today, they've entrusted us with the ability to actually make decisions in meetings. So whereas when you have a group of teachers or a group of building administrators together, sometimes decisions are oftentimes stalled as you have to work things up the chain of command. So by having us as a part of this team, it really allowed us to make some decisions on the spot and really expedite the process. As far as other administrators, we have 2 of them here with us today. Scott Ross, who is an assistant middle school principal, and Anissa Rosenwald, who is one of our elementary assistant principals. And we chose assistant principals representing elementary and middle school by design, because the role of the assistant principal is not a glamorous one. And if you're an assistant principal or you've ever held that role, you know that. It can oftentimes turn into discipline and more discipline and more discipline. And it's certainly not how many educators want to spend each and every one of their days. So by tapping them for this role, it really allowed them an opportunity to become instructional leaders within our K-12 scope. And then finally, if you look at our list of educators that we selected, we have a nice cross-section of social studies, it's a high school social studies teacher, high school biology, middle school math, middle school science, elementary school computer science, and elementary school first grade. And some of those team members are also here with us today. And why did we pick this group? If you notice, they're not all science teachers, they're not all math teachers. This is just a group of really committed educators who are willing to try different things in their classroom, who know it's okay to fail, and are willing to put themselves out there because they want us to provide the absolute best program for our students across the district. So it's, with their excitement and their passion that, we're able to accomplish really anything. So that's why we selected those individuals to be a part of our team.
So like Janeen mentioned, and we're going to talk about in just a minute, really our year in review, based upon our first year of experience in the cohort. But like Janeen mentioned, as educators, regardless of what role you currently sit in, we all have so much on our plates. when you think about educator effectiveness. And that was something brand new to our district last year. It was our first year of implementation. And when we think about all of the Danielson domains and the SLOs and everything that comes along with that, there's so much that comes from the state today that, like Janeen mentioned earlier, it's very easy to set initiatives aside. So one of the benefits of being part of this pathway partnership, it really allowed our district and kind of forced our hand to put STEM as a primary focus of what we're doing. Because like it or not, any meeting that you go to right now in education, we hear a lot of buzzwords. And every meeting that I attend, somehow or another, the word STEM or STEAM, depending on how your district refers to it, comes into that conversation. So while we were doing all of these great innovative things in pockets, we really wanted to make sure that we started focusing on STEM or STEAM, as we refer to it in our district, as a district priority. But with that, it did not come without struggles. And so we want to be very honest and candid about that process, especially for those folks not only who started that partnership last year with our cohort, but also who are currently starting that process, being selected into the 16-17 cohort. So first and foremost, like we are here today, we attended the workshops that were mandated by the Pathway Partnership. And last year we were very fortunate to have all 10 members of our team. We took full advantage of allowing us to have 10 members. Certainly you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, but we certainly want to represent that diverse group. So we were very strategic in making sure, like Janeen mentioned, there was representation from all levels, K through 12, because this really is a district-wide initiative. And again, you know, like other teams, we struggle to find time. We all struggle with time, whether you're a classroom teacher trying to find time just for that day-to-day instruction, you know, whether you're a building principal, you're dealing with parent phone calls, late buses, staff issues, student issues. We all struggle to find time, and that's something that is going to continue to be a challenge for all of us as educators. We struggled honestly with substitutes. You know, we're lucky to have the teachers here with us today, and I think that is a struggle across Western Pennsylvania and even in other parts of this state. Fewer and fewer folks are going into education because it's very different. You know, I think this is my 21st year in education, and how different it is today than it was 21 years ago when I entered the profession. But it's very difficult to get substitutes. And quite honestly, oftentimes last year, even with these pathway partnership meetings, we had to pull some folks back because we just didn't have the substitutes to cover people. So that certainly goes along with the time issue. And honestly, it's hard to come up with a focus because STEM, it's so broad. And for every school district, every company, what that looks like and what that means is a little bit different. So we really did struggle through the process. We had many conversations, myself as the lead person. I talked one-on-one with Tony, and we really, in all honesty, we struggled with the process. But what has been invaluable about this partnership, unlike some other partnerships, oftentimes it's one and done. So you're committed to something for a year, you've tried it, and then like everything else, something comes anew and you push it to the side. But again, what has been invaluable about this partnership, it's ongoing. So we couldn't push it aside because we knew that we were committed this year and we're going to be committed in years moving forward. And also with that being said, we're only here present at these meetings a few times a year. So it's really important as a team that we're committed outside of this process. So when we go back to the district, while we have supports like the Carnegie Science Center, certainly networking with other districts, which is always the most valuable piece I think that you can take away from anything, is that we had to go back to our district and make sure that we continued to work together as a team, regardless if we were sitting in these meetings or not. And that was really important as well. So last year, we completed our action plan. And again, we struggled, so we probably were a little over anxious and probably identified too many goals, and we realized that through that process. But it was really important, like Tony mentioned, one of the things we were looking for as a district to increase our partnerships. Because while those partnerships exist, again, you have to find the time to find those partnerships and to work out the kinks of exactly what it is that you're looking for with them. We also wanted to look at cross-curricular initiatives. You know, outside of math and science and technology, it's important to bring other content areas in. And one of the pieces we're going to talk about in just a couple of minutes, at our middle school, we were afforded another grant where we have this IKS Highlander in this mission ops space. And so in this mission ops space, we do a lot of STEAM-related activities, but not just with science classrooms. We brought in health classrooms. We partnered with the Carnegie Science Center there, where they brought their science on the road into this space. We also, in our 7th grade language arts classroom, we read Call of the Wild. And traditionally, in an English classroom, those students would read the novel and go through the process of engaging in different activities, maybe things like literature circles. But because of our passion and our desire and our focus on STEM, we actually reached out to the point where, if you know anything about Call of the Wild and sled dogs, we actually had dogs come into this space where our students could interact with them, and they met and interacted with dogs that actually participated in the Iditarod. So how powerful that is for kids to be able to make those connections, again, outside of the traditional STEAM or STEM classrooms. We also wanted to see where our teachers were, and I think that was mentioned a little bit earlier. You know, everybody has a different comfort level with STEAM. Some people are a lot more comfortable with those types of initiatives. So we did a survey to make sure we knew what we were starting with. And last but not least, we wanted to learn how to better develop tools to tell our STEAM story. Because as Janeen often says, if we don't tell our story, somebody else will. So it was really important for us to figure out a way to do that as well. So moving forward to this year, I can't exactly pinpoint what that turning point was for us after all of our struggles, but it's like something clicked this year when we met as a committee. And we kind of recharged and refocused. And rather than worrying about filling out all of the paperwork that we had to get done for the Carnegie Science Center Pathway Partnership, the first meeting that we conducted at the beginning of this year was really more about conversation and re-identifying those goals and what we wanted to achieve. So we spent that time talking. And Janeen and I, outside of that meeting, we took the time to do the paperwork. We didn't want to waste that time during that meeting because it was so valuable. So that was a real positive change. And because of our refocus and our re-innovation, we were fortunate this morning, along with 3 other school districts and 4 districts yesterday, to receive a $3,000 mini grant to continue our flight with STEAM initiatives. And with that, we are able to begin a creation station at our K-1 elementary school, which is really redefining our libraries and giving students an opportunity, rather than simply checking out books and doing book type of lessons. They're doing presentations using the green screen. They're engaging with materials like we do robotics and little bits and things of that nature, B-bots. So really embracing those type of activities. And that's where our money and our funds are going to go. And certainly this year we're going to continue to attend, like we are today, at the Progressing Workshop, and then in May at the Advancing Workshop.
So we've had several positive outcomes that have come out of the result of this past year participating in the program. And just to add one more comment to what Andrea had said about the libraries, we think now more than ever before, the importance of digital literacy, I can't stress enough how important that is, so that our students and really all adults understand how do you tell a true source from a false one. And that's something that we're really trying to ingrain in our students, even at the K1 level. So here we are, and we've now taken time, and we've scheduled the time and made it purposeful, so that we can really have outcomes and actions during the course of our meetings. As Andrea mentioned, STEM and STEAM is really at the focus of many of our curricular efforts. And one of the things that we're also trying to do a better job of is really recognizing all of the educators who are stepping outside of their comfort zones, who are taking risks in their classrooms, because without them, kind of the boots on the ground idea, we can talk about this as much as we want, but unless people are willing to try and to grow as educators, nothing would happen. So we're really trying to do a better job of recognizing people who are taking risks, and again, all for the benefit of our students. We incorporated a new STEM course for all of our 8th grade students, and I'm sure, like many of you, we're taking a really hard look at our elective offerings and what used to be the old home ec, wood shop, art, music classes, and thinking about how do we redefine that for our students who are sitting in our classrooms today. And one of those ways was through this development of a new STEM course that's all of our 8th grade students are currently going through, and I think we're finding great success with that this year. And as Andrea mentioned before, as a result of this being a pathway partner, it's really motivated us to get out of our offices and kind of hit the pavement and try to meet other individuals both within our community and in our region to try to create partnerships to benefit all of our students.
So with that being said, another piece that's really important, and I mentioned earlier, is to be able to tell our story. So really utilizing social media as well, through Twitter accounts. Janeen has finally got me on board to start tweeting, and I've said to her, well, nobody's going to follow me. I'm a boring curriculum director. And like within day one, I was like, oh, I actually have some followers. So that's been an exciting journey for me. But we really, our district, our superintendent and assistant superintendent, one of our initiatives and our goals this year is really to have that community outreach and to communicate a lot better. So our buildings are doing a great job of sending out, whether they're electronically or even by paper, weekly newsletters, and we're doing that at all levels. And oftentimes those types of things just typically happen at the elementary level. Also websites, part of our goal was we developed a STEAM website, still a work in progress, but if it weren't for this partnership, I don't know that we would have had the drive to get that started and up and running as early as last year. So that's where, again, this partnership has been so integral and so vital. And with that being said, last but not least, and I mentioned earlier about educator effectiveness and what a monumental task that is, but our district has been very fortunate through that process to adopt differentiated supervision action plans. And so what that means for our professional staff is, for example, on Monday is Martin Luther King Day, where in many districts students have off, but staff still have to report. But our teachers really had an opportunity to individualize their professional development. So rather than maybe sitting on site on Monday and maybe listening to us talk or to a presenter and people sitting back and thinking, well, how does this apply to me? We really wanted to make professional development more meaningful for teachers. So everybody, whether it was individually or in a dyad or a triad, have an opportunity to create and develop this plan of professional development based upon what they want to do personally to help student achievement. So through that process, we actually, so some of our teachers, and because of this partnership, took it upon themselves to take this differentiated supervision action plan and really set up a wonderful evening, which Janeen's going to talk about in just a minute. But what's the great benefit for the teachers, it's a win-win, because a lot of those folks have been able to fulfill those professional development hours through the summer months or leading up to now. So on Monday, they can sit home in their PJs or make doctor's appointments, because we as educators, as most people refer, don't live in the real world. So a lot of those things have to be scheduled in the summer months or after school, and it's difficult. So it really has been a win-win situation through these differentiated supervision action plans.
So a group of teachers used as their differentiated supervision action plan the idea of creating a K-8 district-wide STEAM night. And this really came out of conversations that our committee had last year, and within a year's time, we're actually seeing this reality on March 16th, where all of our K-8 staff will converge on our middle school and engage in STEAM-related activities. Now, these evenings before used to be a showcase of exemplary student work, and they would occur at each of the buildings themselves. So one, we're bringing everybody K-8 under one roof, and two, we're trying to frame the evening as almost like a trip to the Science Center or a trip to the Children's Museum, where parents and other family members are actually engaged in STEAM-related activities side by side with their children. And the best part about this night is that Andrea, myself, and Anissa, we've just facilitated this process. It is all teacher-driven, and they have organized, they have worked with one another, they've developed all of the activities that are going to occur that evening, and really, we've taken a hands-off approach and have only tried to, we've offered our assistance, but they don't need it. And we're really taking care of the the permits and the paperwork and all of those boring things that go along with having a night that's on this scale. But in less than a year's time, I think this is a pretty big leap for our district, going from a point where, and I'll admit this, still many people are still uncomfortable with the idea of STEM and STEAM and what does that look like in my classroom. But this is going to be a night when they're all at least willing to try and learn alongside one another. So we're really excited for this evening, and we can't wait to see how it turns out. So, thank you.